Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest here at property address 6312 Southwest Lesser Way here in Portland, located at the back of the house. Now, if you walk through that door right there, immediately inside that is the basement staircase. That gives you kind of an idea where we're set up here. Nice 4-inch ABS clean out right outside the patio. Real quick on that note, because where the stairs are at, I mostly mention this. They do make flush set caps with a slot in them so they don't jut so far above the ground. It's just less of a tripping hazard. They do make those, you know, $5-6 at Home Depot. In case that's something of concern to you. You just take a crowbar and stick it into them to undo them rather than using a wrench. Anyhow, we're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We are set up out back right now. Water is running, dropping into a 4-inch ABS cleanout. Do have some level of cast iron inside just inside the home here. I did notice that. But a lot of the stuff below the stack, once you start getting horizontal, has been updated. Looks like a little bit of cast iron going to the foundation wall too. Anyway, off we go here. So we do have some level of standing water right as we drop in here. We'll check that out on the way out. I've got 2 sinks running right now, putting a fair amount of water down the line. You do have some, you know, a decent level of standing water there, but we'll go over that when we come back in when the line's fully drained. Now this is a wraparound sewer line. It's a septic or cesspool conversion. That's why the line is going the direction it is. It's a common way of doing the conversion to city sewer. You end up with a much longer sewer line than you would typically have if the line shot out the front. The reason folks often do this is it's often much cheaper to install the line rather than reverse the plumbing under the home. Anyway, these longer lines are more prone to settling because they're just longer. You have less room to grade the line. The depth of the main out in the street there is at a, you know, it's at a set depth. And when you grade a 40-50 foot line to a 12-foot deep main, you've got a lot more angle you can play with versus a, you know, probably what's going to be a 125, 140 foot line. Probably going to see a transition here in just a moment. We're starting to hit the downhill drop here. There it is. 6-inch PVC. Let's see how close my guess is on the length here. Man, I was on the nose. 140 feet. Alright, there's your main lateral. We're going to go locate that really quick here to verify where the line terminates. I guess 139 feet. I was off by a little bit. Anyhow, we'll see where things terminate at. We'll let the line drain out. We'll get a better look at things as we come back in here. Standing water is certainly the stuff I want to take the closest look at. And in general, I've done over 25,000 sewer scopes at this point in my career, and I say that just to give you an idea how informed my opinion is on these things. Bellies in general, you know, if you get a belly towards the end of the line, for instance, 70, 80, 90 feet from the home, it's a much less concerning scenario, mostly because if a blockage does occur, you have a huge amount of leeway. A lot of pipe fills up behind that blockage. In general, in a plastic line, you get a blockage out at those distances, assuming the debris is made of proper intended items to go down a sewer line, the head pressure alone is generally going to push things through. The closer in a belly gets, the more likely it is to result in a backup should something like that occur. So these closer in bellies are in general more concerning than if they were further out. So we'll see how they look once they're drained out here.
I have a listing right now.
Alrighty, located the camera head. Line terminates out on the Southwest Lesser Way. As you face the house from the street, line terminates. It looks like the line ends up kind of running down the just to the right of the driveway. All said and done. Relatively shallow main too. It's only about 7 foot 4 inches deep. So For a line this length, ideally you've got a line about a main that's, you know, in the 12-foot depth realm to give you plenty of room to play with. All the PVC there looks good. And that right there is either a test T connection or a secondary clean out. By code, these long lines have to have a clean out every 100 feet, so seeing another tie-in out that distance is not unusual. That is to be expected. Another clean out there. Actually gave you some decent clean out access on this. Alright, so this is kind of the furthest out spot here where the standing water, this is where it dissipates off. And that is right adjacent to the rear left corner of the home. That's as you face the house from the street. About 2 foot 4 inches deep there. And so yeah, we're submerged here. You're up over an inch of water there. Before I start marking that out, we're going to see if we go, I believe we have a couple of them. When you get bellies kind of in quick succession back to back, in a lot of cases it's tricky to try and do them piece by piece, and you're often having to do them in one continuous run, but we'll see here. And a lot of that's related to trying to chase down as much grade as you can. Now my camera is upside down. So again, submerged here. Very similar to the other one. When I pull the camera back, it's a trick I've learned years and years ago. When you've got about 2 inches or less of standing water, when I rip the camera back, this one I don't even have to pull back hard. That water line sucks down below the camera lens very quickly, you can see. You're right at about the inch mark there. And where I generally start to recommend repairs is once you've got a 5 foot section of pipe with at minimum an inch of standing water in it. And these days, I rarely, like if you put the same exact set of bellies here, again, 90 feet from the home, it's not one I would recommend repairs on. It's just too far from the home to pose high risk for backups to occur. The only trick here is I can't see where the stuff originates. You've got a directional Y connection. So depending on if that belly starts, you know, theoretically back inside the crawl space, for instance, sometimes it does require adjusting the depth of the line as it comes out of the house. Or the height, depending on how you look at it. So if I'm around where the clean out is at, in fact, again, it may start just prior to the clean out. You've got standing water in the Y. It's hard to tell if it's how far back behind it starts. It's right here at about 20 feet where things dissipate off. Alright, about 2 foot. I'm getting between 2 and 2 foot 1 inches. Generally, the depth is holding around 2 foot 1. And that belly dissipates off, maybe 3 feet or so after the line gets out from underneath the concrete patio. And this one here runs from on the nose about 30 to 40 feet. Alright, so you're about 2 foot 2 inches deep here, and 2 foot 4 inches deep at the end of this particular belly, from 30 to 40 feet. And then back on the concrete here, I'm going to try and do some minimal paint marking, just not paint the living heck out of the concrete. I'll get some depths and whatnot. But we're going to do a toilet flush here. It looks like you've got two. I may end up routing through this spot here, we'll see. There it goes. Okay. Let's see if we can catch that water flow where that. Hey, Kylie. Kylie. Push into this a little bit and get a depth on this. Yeah, the bummer is the clean out that's in the crawl space. That's one that you may have to camera from back inside the crawl space. I'm gonna let the repair guys do that end of things. It's a style of clean out I don't love, as it sits horizontal. And these old cast iron caps, they don't seal up proper. They are prone to letting water escape them. So anyway, in order to fully figure out how much regrading is needed, you'll have to see behind that Y connection. Ideally, there is a clean out in the crawl space. They're just ones I generally speaking don't mess with, not unless they've already been opened and replaced with a different style cap. They're just not sitting at an angle to where if water does get back into them, they can leak out the threads. All right, so out here at about 4 feet, I'm at 1 foot 10 inches. All right, I'm at 1 foot 9. I just pushed. You can see there, I got the camera into the line far enough to where it's straightened out, but just before the line makes a little bit of a bend here. 1 foot 9 inches. So I am seeing a consistent depth change, which is a good thing. The ground back here is relatively flat. It looks like sometimes when someone does their install, they get the math wrong, and there just simply wasn't grade. from what I'm seeing here, again, this is repair guys. That's kind of their gig. I'll let them do the math on it and figure out how best to correct it. But I am seeing a consistent depth change across the entire line so far. Back here by the clean out access, right here you're at 1 foot 9 inches. Then 1 foot 10 there. At about 4 feet, and then so on and so forth. It's gently graded, but it does appear to have a level of fall to it, at least from a depth standpoint. Anyway, you're not gonna see every bit of paint markings, like from, you know, about here on back into the house where my camera can't flip backwards and go that direction. You're not gonna see paint there. So I put enough paint down where you can kind of get the general idea of how the thing is routed. This clean out does not drop straight into the top of the line, it Y's into the side of it. So visually kind of throws you off a little bit exactly where this thing comes out. But anyway, the line kind of drops down in here, Y's on the line coming out of. There's your doorway. If you go under the house, you can see where the line shoots out through the foundation wall here. This clean out swings kind of towards the backyard and then Y's on. You'll start seeing my paint markings. You'll see another one just past the little lattice work there. And then an X marking where this particular belly ends. And then you'll see another set of white X's at each end of the other belly there from 30 to 40 feet. And those bellies, because of the depth of water and the proximity to the home, they are ones I'm going to recommend repairs on. After any repair work is done, make sure the line is rescoped. And for this purpose here, anytime you're correcting slope and grade, you want to make sure any repair in general, when you dig it up, you want to make sure a rescope takes place after the line is buried, not beforehand, or you're not going to catch any settling problems that occur. This line, for instance, before there was weight on top of it, before concrete work was done, things of that nature, the line likely looked perfect. It's not until there's a load on top of the line where you're going to catch any settling problems. So the best way to do this is to get the ground compacted, like right before you're ready to pour concrete. So there's, you know, that's the most amount of weight that's going to be on the line. The concrete does add some, but that weight's pretty evenly distributed. As long as everything's looking good at that point, you're usually safe to get it buried. But you don't want to figure out the line bellied out again after you put new concrete over the top of it. That's an unfortunate scenario. Anyway, everything beyond those points there all has good flow and functions nicely overall. Because the standing water here, it spans almost the first 40 feet of the line. It is something I'd like to see corrected. And again, that's because of the close proximity. If you get a blockage just outside the house, you don't have the same level of leeway to build head pressure, push things through. It's just more likely that you're to end up with a blockage under more normal usage versus when you get a belly far out, like I was giving you an example earlier, at let's say 80, 90 feet. At that distance, it comes down to almost purely how the homeowner is treating the sewer line at that point. Back in this area, and granted, this is a more concerning scenario when you have, you know, more occupants in the home. Kids certainly add a new dynamic to that when you've got uncontrolled things going down the line. So it is one I would like to see corrected. If for some reason is not fixed, I highly recommend rescoping periodically to check for buildup, to clean as needed. Every household lives different from one another. Big things to avoid if it doesn't get corrected is make sure cooking oil, grease, fats, stuff like that isn't going down the line that will build up very easily in standing water. Wipes, paper towels, flushable wipes. You want to keep it to ideally folded toilet paper, stuff of that nature, stuff that disintegrates and breaks down easily, because stuff will get hung up in the belly as it shoots through, especially in the first 40 feet. There's almost nothing that will go down this line in the way of solids that won't get hung up in the belly and start, it's going to convey through under sinks running, showers draining, things of that nature to help convey things through there, and disintegration. So it's not an ideal way for the line to function. That's why I would like to see it corrected.